how can people find the thing that makes exercise playful for them and fun?
Okay. Let's throw that word away.
Okay.
Let's throw away exercise, workouts. Let's just throw those words out.
Okay.
Because we've already assigned a negative connotation to those words. As soon as you say, let's exercise, ooh, I don't like to get sweaty.
Yeah.
Let's go work out. It's like, who wants to do that?
Hello, you are listening to the Late Bloomer Living podcast. I'm Yvonne Marchese, your host, and I'm so happy you're here. I created this podcast to give you inspiration and let you know you're not alone in feeling stuck in midlife. I also invite you to join the Age Agitators Club for women, where we come together monthly to hatch our plans for making waves as we age. Being part of this community for women will remind you on a regular basis that you're not too old, and it's never too late to do that thing you've been thinking about. You can find more information at latebloomerliving.com/community, and I hope to see you there. Hello, my friend. I'm super excited for January here on the podcast because I have some awesome guests lined up to help you create lasting habits and achieve your health and wellness goals all year long and beyond. It's all about making changes that you can stick with for life. Forget about the resolutions. Forget about setting rando health goals that are not set up to help you achieve. So today I'm thrilled to have a returning guest who is not only an inspiration, but a wealth of knowledge. His name is Allan Misner. And Allan first graced our airwaves here on Late Bloomer Living back at episode 11 in August of 2020, where we explored his remarkable transition from a career as a CPA to becoming a fitness expert dedicated to helping those over 40. He's a National Academy of Sports Medicine certified personal trainer, a precision nutrition level 2 master health coach, and a certified functional aging specialist. He also hosts the 40 Plus Fitness podcast. And today we're going to dive deep into the challenges of staying fit as we age, discussing practical strategies to not only stay on track, but also to reclaim your health and your vitality. I spoke with Allan about how he got through some tough times during COVID, which I think really ties into the idea that, you know, when life throws curveballs at us, it can be really hard to stay on track, to stay fit and healthy when those things get tough. So we talked about how he managed that. And then make sure you stick around until after that part of the conversation, because the second half of the podcast, we really get into how you can get past those tricky sticking points that can derail you from your goals. Allan's got, I think it's 5 different types of blocks that you could be facing, and you may recognize yourself in some of these. You do not want to miss that really valuable advice. So let's get going. Without further ado, here's Allan Misner. Let's go. Allan, I'm so excited you're back. Thanks.
I am too. Thank you so much.
So my goodness, it's been 4 years, 4.5. How you
It's been a
been?
little while. I'm doing great. You know, when we last talked and I was on the podcast, I had moved to Panama a little over a year. Little did we know COVID was coming right around the corner. Things were very different here than they were in the United States. A lot of people, when they realized what was going to happen here, they didn't want to be here. They went back. We stayed and we gutted it out. And that's actually been one of the best decisions we made. We were able to buy a bed and breakfast that we now run called Lula's. And so it's a very different lifestyle than even I had back then. So
Yeah.
it's been great.
And part of the challenge, if I remember correctly, with COVID for you is that you had a gym, like an in-person space for people to come and work out. So was that part of the transition to doing the bed and breakfast?
No, they were 2 different things. Obviously, COVID created problems for us on the gym side, but it created the opportunity for the Lula's because the people running Lula's needed the income to own the space. When COVID hit and there were no tourists because the country closed down, they realized they couldn't make the money they needed to keep the place. So they gave it back to the original guy they bought it from. After COVID started settling out and there was a little bit of release, still wasn't tourist at the moment, we were able to buy Lula's for a
Wow.
reasonable price. Now, on the other side, I was able to keep the gym. Everything was shut down. So my gym was shut down for 11 months.
Wow.
And all I was really able to do out of it was continue to invest some money to keep it there in the location and to bring in better and more equipment. I ended up taking over a space next to us. So when we reopened, we were bigger and better.
Awesome. And in the meantime, you were helping people stay fit online, right?
But that also had its problems.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because the thing was this is everybody decided, okay, I can't do what I'm doing here. I'm going to go online. The problem it created was a lot of my clients had uncertainty in their lives. There were furloughs and they weren't sure where their income was going to come from. So from a prioritization of spend,
Mm.
I was one of the things they would consider more disposable. And so I lost like 2/3 of my clients. It was not the best of times as we went through COVID for us. I got basically 4 hours I was allowed to be outside of my apartment each week. And I was only allowed to shop. I couldn't go exercise. I couldn't do anything outside of the apartment. But interestingly enough, my hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays were 7:30 to 9:30, and the grocery stores didn't open until 8:30.
Mm.
I would walk around with a grocery bag from store to store so that if the police came by and was asking what I was doing, I could show them my passport and demonstrate that I was supposed to be able to go shop and that I was shopping. I had my bag, but the stores weren't open. So I was just checking to see which store was going to open first. And then when it did open, I was like, okay, I'll go to this store and get this and go back to my car.
Mm.
So I would spend my entire 4 hours a week outside walking, but that was about the only outdoor activity I could have each week. That went on for months. There were a lot of challenges physically, emotionally, and financially. But when we got back, I was able to get the gym running again pretty quickly. We were able to start working on great projects. I lost the gym. I had to sell the gym because what happened was that my landlord raised my rent 1 month before COVID. Now they couldn't know that COVID was coming. So they raised it and they raised it 25%, which was kind of high. But I said, look, it's been 3 years.
Wow.
Okay. That's a lot, but I'm going to go ahead and pay it. And then we reopened. We were open for a year, and I finally got the gym profitable again. So we were having profitable months, and then my landlord came in and raised the rent again. This time 44%. And so I called the guy and I said, look, you've raised my rent 73% in 13 operating months. And I said, I don't know of a business out there that can absorb that amount of cost increase and stay in business. And they're like, well, that's what the market is. That's what it is. Like, okay. So I found another place. It was the same price, but it was a better place. So I got a better place for that price. Unfortunately, 3 other gyms moved into town based on the walk traffic of drop-ins. It blew me out of the water. I was losing money and my rent went up and my costs went up. So I go ahead and say, I'm going to close down. Everybody's complaining, no, we're coming back. I'm like, too late. But the owners of the place, they were putting in these apartments, and this was just the office, like one rental space in with all the apartments. They wanted a gym there. And so they said, how can we buy your equipment and keep the gym open? Sure. Even better, you can buy the name. So all the other stuff you don't have to change out. It's there. The gym's still open. And I'm proud of that because this is the only Panamanian owned and run gym for locals. So it's locally owned, locally run. They're the landlord, they own the business, all of it.
Wow. Wow. So how was your health during this time? I mean, that's a lot of stress. And
Yeah.
you're talking about the uncertainties of people's lives. The first thing to go sometimes is people taking care of themselves in the midst of that kind of stress. But I know that you have a massive commitment to it. How did that all look for you?
I would love to tell you I'm perfect. I am not even close. The core of it was this. Yes, I would have my moments where I was really stressed out. And what I started leaning on was this kind of weird thing called people. I started reaching out and saying, okay, this is what I'm feeling. It's odd because that's not my nature to ask for help,
Mm.
to reach out and tell people I'm hurting. That's not my initial reaction. My initial reaction is to hunker down, back into a hole, and have my claws out.
How did you bridge that gap? Because then that's huge if that's not your nature to do it.
It was a weird, weird thing. What I did was I was sitting there one day and man, I was so beat up and I was so just frustrated. I thought I got to spill this somewhere. So I got a piece of paper and a pen
Mm.
and started writing all my feelings out. I wrote down what was going on, all my feelings. And then when I got done, I'm like, okay, quit the sob story. Okay, that's over. That's done. You can't fix that. What are you going to do next? So I wrote down what I learned from that and what I was going to do differently going forward. And I got through writing all of it and kind of like a journal, you just say, okay, no one will ever read this but me. And then I thought, well, no, I'm going to go ahead and publish it.
Mm.
I basically had my mail list. I sent out that email. I wrote it all, typed it all out and sent it.
Wow.
Okay. Changed a little bit of the language
Yeah.
to tame it down a little bit because someone else is going to read this. But I didn't change the content. It was exactly what I was feeling that day. It was exactly what I learned from it. And
Yeah.
I got like a pour back of people that were like, I appreciate you sharing this. And, that was a great lesson. I appreciate you teaching that because I'm like, well, I didn't think when I sent the email that this was a teaching thing. This was just me working through a problem.
Mm.
And the next day, I had a woman come to my desk that was there. She was a member, and she's bawling, and I'm bawling. I'm walking home with this bundle and tearing up a little bit here. But it was just standing with her, and she's so hurt that the gym's going away.
Mm.
And I was hurt because I couldn't stop it from happening. Spill it all on paper. Sob story's over. What are you going to do? And I did that again and I sent that out as an email. I did that for a couple weeks, just telling the story of what was going on with the gym. And then, like I said, there was the owners that came by and we were sitting on the porch and were like, if we reduced your rent, I'm like, you could charge me no rent and I would still be losing money right now. So what are you going to do? I said, I have to sell the equipment. I have to sell the business and get rid of it. I can't do it. They were trying to talk me into staying open and I just couldn't do it. They came back about a week later and said, can we buy the equipment, keep a gym there? Because we want a gym there. I'm like, okay, we'll figure that out. And then we did, we came up with a deal and did the deal. But it was just a series of emails that, started as letters. I was writing to myself effectively, like a
Mhm.
journal, because it was doing me no good in there, festering and
Yeah.
not solving any problems. Each time I sat down, I got it out. And then it was like, okay, solve the problem, do something positive. Don't let this be the story
Yeah.
for you. Obviously, I couldn't keep the gym myself, but maybe even the better thing was getting someone else who could carry it forward.
Yeah.
And that's where it ended up. I'm happy with the outcome. The gym is still open today. The owners still have it. They're still running it and it's thriving. So yeah, it's a winning story. It's just not, I'm not part of it all the way. I think about it, if you follow American football, the quarterback takes the snap and hands the ball to the running back, and the running back scores the touchdown. The whole team wins,
Yeah.
even though the quarterback had to let go of the ball
Yeah.
to make that happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you don't always have to be the hero of your own story.
And often we are not. We really
Exactly.
want to be, right? God, I'm just imagining the stress you must have been under. You kept working out in the middle of all that,
For the
eating
most
well
part.
for the most part. Yeah. It's
Well,
right.
that's another part of me. Some things are hard, and then others for me are a little different. If I get really stressed out, I have to move.
I
I,
am the same way. I walk on the beach. I call it beach therapy.
yeah,
These days, the roller skating, I'm starting to think of it as skate therapy, is the one thing that I feel like I have total choice and control over is whether or not I'm gonna move my body each day.
Yeah. For me, the like the path forward is like we have this road. It's called Bluff Beach Road. From where we are at Lula's, walking out this road, the beaches get prettier and prettier and prettier the longer you go. At about 7.65 miles, you hit a place. It's called Jungle Highway, and it goes off into the jungle.
Oh.
It's where you're going to see a lot more animals. There's no people other than hikers and maybe some people on ATVs, but it's really quiet and peaceful back there. The problem is at that point, you've already walked 7.65 miles in
I
one
was
direction.
thinking 7.6 miles in one direction. Oh my gosh.
But that was a period of time when I was out there 2 or 3 times a week.
Mhm.
And so I was putting on a lot of miles and I was getting a lot of head sorting done, a lot of movement done. Also, when I get angry or frustrated, it really does help sometimes to just throw heavy stuff around, So getting in the gym and putting a little bit more weight on there than I probably should, but it's cathartic. Movement heals. When I get out there and do the movement, and it's one of the core things with me with weightlifting, I don't hear, feel, or see anything beyond that moment. They talk about flow.
Mm-hmm.
Lifting is one of the few times I can just, it is just induced. If I start lifting weights, I'm in flow.
Mm.
There's very little beyond that weight and that bar.
I've never experienced that with lifting weights before, I will say, Alan,
Yeah.
but I do experience that the minute I step on a paddleboard
Yeah.
and the minute I get on my roller skates because of the focus that it takes for me to stay up.
Yeah. And this is the same. This is the same. The way I
yeah.
lift is that kind of focus
Mm-hmm.
where I'm feeling every muscle fiber and knowing that I'm doing what I'm doing with the right form and knowing exactly how this should feel. That's where my head is. It's literally like turning off the world for a moment.
You weren't always this guy, Alan. I want to bring it around to anybody who's listening right now who has not been moving their body in a while. Maybe they never have. I think people fall into a couple of camps. They either are like the lifetime opinion about themselves that's or story about themselves that says, I am not an athletic person. I don't like to move my body. I always hated gym. Or they could be somebody who did a lot when they were younger and then life took over, as it does when we start adulting and you lose the thread. And then how do you get back to it? What worked for you?
Okay.
What would be your advice to somebody in this zone?
Okay. So what you're talking about is one of the mindsets that I've cataloged over the course of training thousands of people. And I looked back at my journey. I'm like, whoa, that's who I was at that point. So we go through these mindsets, and there's 5 of them that I've identified. The one that I didn't deal with was what I call pedals. Now, the pedals person, they start something. So here's this cool new workout or this cool new diet.
Pedals like the pedals on a
pedals
bike?
in a car. Gas
Okay.
pedal, brake pedal.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay. So they start down the line of saying, I'm going to do this thing. I got this new
Mm-hmm.
book. Doctor says this is revolutionary diet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do this diet.
Mm-hmm.
They push the gas. They get 2 weeks in. They're like, I'm not really digging the food and I'm not losing that much weight.
Mm-hmm.
Break. And they basically stop. So a pedals person is gas, brake, gas, brake. They never give it enough time. Okay. So you may know someone who's like, oh, this is the new thing. This is what I'm doing. It's like, oh, okay. You were doing the other thing last week. Well, that didn't work for a whole week. Okay. So if you're pedals person, you feel that's your personality, you want to keep hitting the brake, promise yourself 8 weeks, 6 weeks. I've read a lot of good things about the Mediterranean diet, and I'm going to try it for 6 to 8 weeks. I promise you, you get past week 2, week 3, it gets easier and the results start to show on the outside. You get yourself healthier on the inside, it starts to show on the outside, but it takes a little while. So resist the urge to hit the brakes. Promise yourself to do it for long enough. I never really dealt with that as I went through my challenges, but that's a real one. It's out there. I see it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is the co-pilot. The co-pilot has to take care of everybody else. You know, we were talking
Mm,
before we got online. My teenage son, my senior son is in school. I don't know where he's going to be. I got to check that out and get that sorted before I sort my own thing.
mm-hmm.
So we're looking out for everybody. For me, it was my job, 100% career guy. I'm in a corporate. I'm like 16, 20-hour days. No big deal.
Mm,
Skip workout, eat at a hotel bar, wake up the next morning, do it again.
mm,
I put the obligations of that over my own. And then I had no energy at the end of the day for myself. Moms, you probably hear something in there. It's like, yeah, I'm doing the kids, I'm doing the husband, and then at the end of the day, it's like, all I want to do is wash dishes and go to bed.
yes.
Maybe a little bit of social media and shut up.
Absolutely. My way around that, Alan, was instituting a morning routine because I realized that if it wasn't going to happen in the mornings for me to meditate and move my body every day, I had to get up an hour earlier than everybody else in the house because otherwise I was going to get swept away into all
Yeah.
the little fires that had to be put out through the day. By the end of the day, I
Right.
had nothing left to give.
Right. What I tell people who find themselves as a co pilot is you've got to ask for help. You actually have a team around you,
Mm-hmm.
and all you have to do is let them know some of your needs. A simple one is I told my boss, I'm going to take my lunch hour from 2 to 3 because it's a time in the gym right across the street when there's nobody there but a couple retired people and a few students. So I can
Mm-hmm.
get my workout done really quickly and efficiently.
Mm.
And it's perfect time for me to. So he's like, okay. Now he might forget, and then I might be on the phone with him sitting there at the gym, or it might be before I leave, and I could just say this one simple thing, because it was 2 to 3. I was like, "Do you need this before 4 o'clock?"
Mm-hmm.
No, you'll have it at 4 o'clock. Cool, done. It was just as simple as just letting him know that I had some boundaries
Mm-hmm.
and asking that he help me hold those boundaries. It could be something as simple as say, again, you got kids, and it's like, could you give the kids their bath, get them dressed for bed, brush their teeth, and then get them into bed. And then I'm going to go downstairs, get my workout done, and meet you up here so we can read a bedtime story, tuck them in, and then we've got our time.
Mm-hmm.
Would you do that for me? I promise you, there shouldn't be a spouse out there that wouldn't say sure.
Yeah.
A co pilot just needs to ask for help. Okay. The next one that's very common, and this is the one you actually spoke to, is what I call the windshield person. It might have been in the past you were overweight, the fat
Mm-hmm.
kid, or it might have been in the past you were the super athlete. But you're looking in that rear view mirror at who you were.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to get you anywhere. You have to realize the seat you're sitting in, the driver's seat, is right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what you have. This is who you are. You're not that person anymore. And the only way you're going to move forward is to turn your head and look through the windshield. That's where your future is. So if you can realize you're sitting here and look in the future through the windshield, that's how you'll get there. So you may have been the heavy kid who wasn't good at sports, but that's not where you are now. You're here. So
Mm-hmm.
what do you need to not be the heavy person anymore? What do you need to be as fit as you can be? It's out that windshield. So if you can keep your head focused on the windshield, you'll be moving forward.
Yeah.
You got to forget that past.
That's not just about working out. That's about everything. Like
About
I
everything.
think all of us have, we're all windshield people because we all have this idea of who we are that we've been carrying around our whole lives, decisions that we've made about ourselves, things people told us about us that we then carry. And suddenly it's somehow true because it's been repeated often enough. And
Yeah,
all we need to do is look towards where we want to go next and acknowledge that all that is created who you are now. But if you want to change, you got to look to where you want to go. Yeah.
exactly. Keep focused on the windshield. Keep
Yeah.
focused on the vision where you deserve and need to be, and you'll get there. Now, the next one that I also dealt with a little bit is a tires person. So, a tires person needs traction. So, you probably know this if you live in a colder climate and you're trying to drive up a hill and you got traction, you don't speed up, you don't slow down, you don't do anything but just keep going. So a person who's a tires person needs that traction, because if they lose the traction, they're going to slide all the way down the hill and probably into the ditch. So this is a person that needs to see stuff happen. Now, I remember driving in Colorado, very straight road, very long. And I'm just driving 85 miles an hour and looking at the mountains. It looks like I'm standing still.
Mm.
15 minutes later, 30 minutes later, it feels like I'm in the same exact spot.
This is the person that needs evidence.
They
Like
need evidence.
They need to
So
see.
now I'm watching the mile markers go down and the numbers are changing.
Uh-huh.
And that was the only sense of movement I really had as I was going forward. So someone like this, when you'll just take something as simple as a journal or a calendar, paper calendar, and you just start marking it. I was talking to one client and we had a lot of conversations about self-love and everything else, but I started realizing she needed some traction. So we said, okay, I want you to get a calendar and mark every day you do the thing. We had talked about how walking 30 minutes each day was an act of self-love. She went one better. I love it to death because she did this. She went out and got heart stickers. Each day she did the 30-minute walk. She
Mm-hmm.
put a heart sticker on her calendar.
Love it. That's like the little sticker charts that I used with my kids. That's awesome. Yeah.
And so that kept her wanting, she wanted to get the next heart on there. She wanted to have a streak. She'd fill up a whole month, and at the end, it's just the celebration of us. You
So
did
just
that.
even the cell, and that's not even results. That
Right.
is looking at the commitment and going, oh, look what I did
The
today,
only thing you
right?
had control over was your actions.
Yeah.
The results will come, but you can't, like if I said, I want to lose 5 pounds this month. Okay, go do it. Lose 5 pounds. Just make it happen. 5
Mm-hmm.
pounds. No, it's the actions. It's choosing your foods differently. It's adding movement, maybe. So it's the actions you have control over. So what this does, it celebrates that you're consistently doing the thing and you get to physically see it one way or another. And that helps a person know that they're getting the work done. And then
Yeah.
the final one, and this is where I spend most of my time now. I'm not always here. Sometimes I fall back on certain things, but I'm an atlas. Now, this is not the Greek god holding up the whole earth. This is the atlas we had when we had the paper maps, the books of maps we would have in our car.
Mm-hmm.
So you had an atlas, and when you're going to go on a long trip, your parents would pull out the red felt marker and they would mark the path that you're going to take. But you saw an outcome, you saw an end, you saw a vision of where you're going to go. Atlases love challenge. They love to see the big thing. So they'll set the big goal like, I'm going to learn how to roller skate again. And they do the things necessary to do that. They say, I'm going to run, like for me, the initial one was, I'm going to run a Tough Mudder.
Mm.
So I started training for a Tough Mudder.
Mm-hmm.
And now the way I look at it is, I want to be there as a participant in my grandchildren's lives that haven't been born yet. I know when I was younger, I think the craziest thing I did was a 50-mile trail run, an ultra marathon when I was like
Wow.
29.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter and I did a Tough Mudder when I was 47.
I remember you telling that
I
story.
don't even know what my grandkids that haven't been born yet are going to be doing in their teens and 20s.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to be the crazy 80-year-old out there trying to do
Yeah.
it with them.
Yeah. Sometimes I do a little bit of visualization. I don't know if I'll ever have grandkids like you. My kids, I hope I don't have them anytime soon. They're too young, but I do visualize myself playing with my grandkids and being in the pool with them, riding bikes with them. I am in it. I don't want to be the
Yeah.
grandma sitting on the side. I want to be in there with them, having
The
fun with
participant.
them.
Yeah. The participant
Yes.
and not the spectator.
Yes.
You do not want to be sitting in the rocking chair looking down at the kids playing on the floor. You want to be on the floor with them.
Yes.
You don't want to be the person sitting on the bench at the exit of the zoo, waiting for them to come back and tell you how it was. You want to be running with them when they go from the lions to the monkeys.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the other thing, like with the skating, tell me where this falls into your designations, because what I've been doing is uh, the first several months back on my skates last year, was getting past the fear and the wobbles. I did
Yeah.
not expect to be so fearful when I got back on my skates because that was never my experience. When I was 10 to 13, I was on my skates every day. I would do like 10, 15 minutes at a time,
Yeah.
take it easy, just getting comfortable again. And now, a year and a half later, I'm trying to learn stuff that I never knew how to do. I want to learn how to dance skate. I'm learning and practicing new moves and drills, technical things like getting up on my toes and heels. They're just drills, but
Yeah.
it's fun. Where does
Yeah.
that fit into this whole thing?
Okay. Here's the thing. For our body to do anything, the brain has to communicate to muscles.
Mm-hmm.
We're sitting on our butt. There's not a lot to communicate. I just sit there. You're doing great. But when we start to do other things that are challenging, so we start lifting weights or we start trying to do the rollerblades or roller skates, those are very dynamic. They're very different. The to stabilize your brain has to fire off a lot of muscles that you don't usually use.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so these are just
Yes.
stabilizations. It's not like the movement itself. There are new muscles there as well. But just to stay on a pair of skates balanced, your whole body has to fire at the right time to keep your center of mass over your feet.
And there are
Oh,
certain moves that I've tried to learn where the first day I'm watching tutorials and I'm like, I don't even really know if the drills I'm doing are making sense. And then the next day it clicks.
yeah. It's called
As
neuromuscular connection. What happens is the brain knows these are the muscle fibers to fire at this time to do this thing. So it's learning to communicate. What this is, and particularly important as we get older, is neuroplasticity.
yeah.
It's our brain learning something new.
And that's good to help ward off
It all
dementia,
of it,
right?
all yes. So I can look at it from a weightlifting perspective. Here you are, you're going to do a squat. You haven't done squats before. You start with body weight, and your body's starting to figure out, okay, for me to go down and back up, these are the muscle fibers I have to fire at this particular resistance level, and it gets very efficient at it. So eventually, you get to point body weight squats are fairly easy for you. Then you say, okay, now I'm going to hold some weight in my hands. So goblet squat. You're holding a kettlebell and you're doing the squat, and your muscles have to figure out, wait, the number of muscles we were firing isn't enough to get the body and this additional weight up. So we got to fire more muscle fibers. The brain learns to do this. I need more muscle fiber recruitment. And that
Mm.
gets better and better. And so you get to a point where you're firing all the muscles you have. Now the muscles have to get better, they have to get stronger. So when you're doing resistance training, there's a training of get to a point where you fire all the muscles you need to. When that's not enough, the body says she needs more muscle. So you build some strength because you're now past that neuromuscular part to a point where now the muscles themselves have to improve. That's the standard of the way we do strength. When you start looking at other skills, you're firing so many different new muscles. Through drills, you're teaching your brain how to do that. As it gets to where it's firing the exact muscles it needs to at the exact time it needs to, you learn the new skill. You keep practicing it. The wiring is there, and now you can do the trick. It
Yeah.
gets easier and easier, and you almost feel like you don't even have to think about. You just know, okay, I'm going to do this particular move, and your brain kicks in and just does it.
I'm waiting for that to happen.
It'll happen. I'm sure. Well, you're standing on skates.
I know I'm making progress. Today, for the first time, I was listening to one of my favorite Pink songs. Then I was listening to Stray Cat Strut, which is awesome. And it's got a very steady beat. It's a
Yeah.
very easy rhythm. And so all of a sudden, a lot of the drills that I was doing, I was like, oh my goodness, this is turning into a dance. Because if I just drilled this move for a little bit and then that move, and then, oh my goodness, and it suddenly becomes fun.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I'm bringing that up, is because I want to talk about how can people find the thing that makes exercise playful for them and fun.
Okay. Let's throw that word away.
Okay.
Let's
Which
throw
word?
away exercise, workouts. Let's just throw those words out
Okay.
because
Okay.
we've already assigned a negative connotation to those words. As soon as you say, let's exercise, ooh, I don't like to get sweaty.
Yeah.
Let's go work out. It's like, who wants to do that? Now, I'm going to tell you a story. It's a sad story. So get your tissue if you need it.
Oh, I'm
But here's
ready.
the story. So, guy named Glenn, is my grandfather, loved golf, favorite sport in the world.
Hmm.
He loved it more than people. And he was a salesman back then. That's what salesmen did. Right? They played golf
Hmm.
with the guys and then they signed the deal, and that's how they made their living. And they got to play golf every day, which was perfect for him. Now, when my grandfather hit age 80, he had to quit playing golf. And he told me, he said he didn't have the balance to swing the club. As a trainer, I know he probably also didn't have the strength. And
Hmm.
that's why he didn't have the balance. So there's a lot of things wrong with Glenn, my grandfather, of why he couldn't play golf. Now, a lot of people say, oh, he's 80, you quit doing things when you get older. You quit playing the games because you can't. He lived until he was 95. So the last 15 years of his life, he didn't get to play the sport, do the thing he loved.
That breaks my heart.
Flash forward to age 90, he's living in an apartment. There's a desk he can call down if he needs something. He can't make it from the chair to the bathroom in time. The instant he realizes he has to go, he knows there's a mess. And he can't clean himself up.
Hmm.
He has to call down to the desk and get them to help him. And because of that, he didn't want anyone around.
Mm.
I didn't get to see him in the last 5 years of his life.
So then he's isolated.
He's isolated and I don't get to see him. And that's how he lives the last 5 years of his life. I say this and I mean this. I want to be able to wipe my own butt when I'm 105.
I remember us having this conversation last time. Since we had that conversation, I have focused on squats as often as I can.
Also going to help your skating. Good.
Yes, absolutely. Does it strengthen your knees to do squats? Because I feel like my knees are stronger doing something
Anytime
else.
you strengthen muscles on the limbs that are moving, it's helping the joints and you're
Hmm.
keeping fluid going through the joints. So there's value there. You can injure a joint if you don't do the exercise properly. So and people will say silly, stupid things. So internet has lots of great advice, but a lot more bad advice.
Mm.
So just be careful when you're looking at the internet and they're saying, don't do this and don't do that. Or your doctor even saying, don't do this, don't do that. They're just trying to keep you alive. They're not trying to help you be able to wipe your butt when 105. They don't,
Hmm.
again,
Hmm.
they're in there saying, I just want to keep the person alive to 105.
Yeah.
They're not thinking the other side of it. Now, when I say I want to do these things, what does that mean? Well, what do I need to be able to do to be able to wipe my own butt when I'm 105? And this is the conversation we had was I need the dexterity, the stamina, the speed, and the ability to squat to do all the movements that are necessary to do that thing. Had my grandfather trained his body when he was in his 60s and 70s and 80s, he would have kept playing golf. He didn't train to be a golfer.
Mm.
He didn't train to have independence to take care of himself. And that's why he lost those things. The positive side of this, the most wonderful thing, this is the great takeaway. We have the greatest gift you could ever want right here. The human body is a biological machine that we get to live in. And if you give it what it needs, it can heal. There's not another machine out there like this. Your
It's
car can't heal
phenomenal,
itself.
isn't it? Isn't it?
Your car cannot heal itself.
I think we're
Okay.
walking miracles, Alan. Like
We
these shells that we're in, they're great. It's amazing what we're capable of.
right. And if you give it the right things, it can improve. There's not another machine like that,
Can
you
I
know.
ask you a quick question about, let's say, somebody who is listening to this conversation and squats just sounds like, forget about it. I can't do that. If somebody's watching TV, can they take a few minutes during a commercial break and just sit down and stand up from the couch just to kind of build? Is
Yeah.
that a good idea for somebody
Yeah.
starting from zero?
So well, they're below zero. What you've just told me, they're starting well below zero
Okay.
because number one, they have an internal dialogue that will cause them to fail
Yeah.
because they use the word can't.
Mm,
Okay. So that voice inside them, and you named mine because I named mine, fat bastard. He kept telling me I was going to fail.
mm,
He kept telling me can't. He kept telling me always. He kept telling me never. He is a terrible, terrible influence on my life. He's still there. He's always going to be there, but I'm stronger than he is now.
mm.
If you let yourself tell yourself things like, I can't, then you're right.
Yep. Whatever you believe you can or can't do, you're right, right?
That's below zero. So
Yeah.
we got to solve that problem. You can do absolutely anything you need to do because they're absolutely right. We sit down every day, women multiple times because that's the toilet break. That's how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what I hear. Never been there, but you're squatting all the time. Feeding the cat, going to the bathroom, sitting down on a chair. You're doing this all the time. Now, you're also absolutely right that we need to start where we are. I had one client and she was telling me when we first got started, she said, I hate exercise. I hate working out. I hate all of that. I don't want to do it. I'm like, okay, we won't do it. We won't do exercise or workouts. And she
What'd
says,
you
so tell
do?
me about what's going on. And she's like, when I walk to my car in the morning, I get winded. I'm like, okay. So I said, what I want you to do tomorrow, when you walk out to your car, I want you to do one lap around your car and then you can drive to work. So she does the one lap. I'm like, how is this hard? But I did it. I'm like, yes. I said, do it again tomorrow. A few days later, just is getting easier. I'm like, okay, 2 laps. And she did those. Within a few weeks, she's walking around the neighborhood. She can walk for a good solid 15, 20 minutes.
For anybody who can't, this is an audio podcast. Alan and I can see each other on Zoom here, but when he said that, my hands went to my chest because, and I'm going to get verklempt now, to have that kind of impact on somebody's life, what is that? What
That's
like
why
for
I do
you?
what I do. You say, well, why would you leave that job
Yeah.
making that kind of money?
Yeah.
Why would you leave it? Why would you stay? Why would you stay? The whole point of that, though, was I never said the word exercise, never said workout. This is what we're going to do to make that easier.
Yeah.
We're going to do this to make you that person.
Something you said earlier that I think is really important to bring up here is that you talked about that fat bastard as like another person, like who's there, and maybe another personality inside you, and that he's never going away. Whoever that is for any of us, there's that voice that wants to say things about you.
The
You
things you
said
would
you're
never say to your
strong.
best friends,
No,
you wouldn't even say to your worst enemies.
yeah. And you said he's never going away, but you're stronger than him. And if we can just get to the point where we can hear that voice and go, I hear you, and I'm not going to do that, or I don't believe that anymore, or I know you're trying to keep me safe, but that's not me anymore.
Right. Your inner voice says you can't. You have two choices. You can believe it or you can do something about it. I would choose to do something about it because I want to be able to wipe my own butt when I'm 105. I want to be able to get on the floor and hang out with my grandchildren. I want to be able to take care of the people around me. And to do that, I've got to be strong. And so I don't look at it as exercise or workouts, it's training. Who do I need and want to be 5 years from now, 20 years from now, 100 years from now? I want these things. I need these things. So I train today and tomorrow so I will have those things. That's the wonderful thing about the human body.
I love that.
It gets better, it gets stronger, and it's right there. You just have to treat your body right.
Yeah.
And if you think about it as training, being fit for task, it no longer seems like this cumbersome extra thing I have to do. It's just a part of being alive.
I
You
love
train for
that
what you
judo.
want.
Yes, yes. Okay, so no more exercise. It's training. That is,
The drills that you're doing for the skating are training so you can skate better and enjoy it more.
mhm.
Okay. Now, if you decided I need my legs to be stronger or I want more stamina, so I'm going to do some other things, maybe some things I don't enjoy as much.
Yes, that's what's happening. Like I'm doing because I know that a lot of the moves that I'm doing, they require core work that is, been a bugaboo for me. I'm doing more core work. I am doing squats at home off skates so that I can do these things. It is training. It is training. That is, you're spot on. I
And
love
that's
that.
and that's what you're doing. And I know I need to build core. I know I need more mobility, particularly in my ankles and my knees, be
I
able to
stand
do
on
these
one leg
things.
for a while,
Balance
working on
training.
my
Yeah,
balance.
exactly. It's all training to be who you're supposed to be.
Yeah,
And so that's how I want you to look at movement. If you were out doing the thing you love and you were sweating, you wouldn't care that you were sweating because it's
100%.
exercise workout. The doctor said I should exercise.
I
And
don't
I'm
like
like,
to sweat, Alan. I do not like to sweat.
if you're skating and you build up a little sweat, you're like, cool.
I don't even think about it if that's where it's coming from. That's so funny. Total mindset shift. I think we're out of time, but I could go on a long
Yes.
time. Yes. Thank you for, I think that what we've accomplished here is just talking about the mindset and finding your triggers. Are you the windshield? Are you the pedal
Right.
and the gas? Are
And I have a quiz to help you with that.
oh,
So if you
okay.
go to 40plusfitness.com/quiz, that's 40plusfitness.com/quiz. It's absolutely free. It takes about a minute. It's going to ask you some basic questions. And the advantage of doing it this way is that you will know which one is your primary now. Like I said, when I first started, I was taking care of the business. If I'd never freed up the time to do anything else, I never would have been anywhere else. So once I freed up the time and I set my boundaries, I realized I'm overdoing it because I think I'm an athlete. I need to look out the windshield and do
Mm,
this. I
mm.
started doing that. Now I realize I need consistency or I give up. So now I'm focused on tracking and looking at my results and saying, okay, I am getting stronger. I am doing these things. I see the work. And then after that, it's like, okay, I now want something bigger. So I signed up for the Tough Mudder with my daughter. At that point, I've got this huge, scary thing. I've got to really be pushing myself a little
That's
bit more
very
than just focus
motivating.
on consistency,
Yeah.
but enough pushing my heart self hard enough, but not so much that I'm looking in the back mirror, in the mirror and saying I was an athlete, so I am an athlete. No, I want to be an athlete. I'm looking out the windshield, wanting this. I'm consistent at doing the work, and now I just need to push myself a little harder. I had to do them in order. I couldn't have been an atlas at the beginning because I hadn't solved the problem of time. I couldn't be an atlas at the beginning because I would have broke myself because I wouldn't have thought about the windshield about this is where I am today. This is my seat. And I wouldn't have been an atlas if I didn't get consistent first. All of these mindsets play in, and you probably have a bit of all of them at some level, but you have to do the first one first. That's the domino. Get that one going and then focus on who you are now. Get that one going. And you can kind of build this to a point where it's like, okay, I got all those little mindsets worked out. I got my life set and I can do these things. And then it's really just finding the other motivational things that you need to have in place to make it happen.
Thank you. Awesome. plusfitness.com/quiz to go get the
Yeah.
quiz. And they can listen to your podcast. It's the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, right?
Anywhere you want to go listen, right where you're listening to this one. Yeah, it's right there. And I'm an old timer,
How many years have you been doing it now?
9 years.
9 years. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah. Thank
Again,
you.
people pod fade. So if I did 11, I was like, oh, most people pod fade at 15. So, you
Yep.
know, you're
Yeah.
still there, which is awesome.
I feel like singing, I'm still standing.
There
Yeah,
you go.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
On roller skates.
Thank you so much for coming back and talking to me. I really appreciate it.
The pleasure to be here. Glad to reconnect.
Me too.
Well, there you have it. I've got a little something for you to think about. Did you recognize yourself in any of those types that Allan described? Are you a co-pilot like me? Maybe it's time to reach out and ask for help. Are there tasks that you can delegate to help you clear some space on your calendar? Are you more of a tires person who needs to see that you're gaining traction? If that's the case, why not create a chart to track your activities, your achievements? You could even add some shiny star stickers for that extra bit of motivation. Why not? I hope you found this episode helpful. If you did, please share it with someone who might benefit too. And don't forget to tune in for more expert episodes this month about health and wellness. If you want more information about Allan Misner, check out his podcast, 40 Plus Fitness, or go to his website at 40plusfitness.com. You can take his quiz to find out what it is that's blocking you from reaching your fitness goals. And I'm going to have links in the show notes for you. So just go to latebloomerliving.com and look for episode 214. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next week. And remember, always be bloomin' and bloom like you mean it. See you soon.